There you go.
Thank you guys for coming. We're just mainly going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 today. So we'll just get started. Our first question for you guys is, what, in your opinion, is your ideal quality of work life?
I would say my quality of work life would be to make sure that I could balance it so that when I get done with work that it stays at work and I don't have to come back and worry about it all night, stressing about it. I'd just like to keep them separated.
I'd agree with that, and then just making sure, during work, you get breaks for, to eat, your meals, or maybe to go for a walk if you need to, and just making sure that you get that time off just to for time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to agree. I don't mind working as long as I got time for leisure and time to myself afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys the benefits and sanitation come to mind at all when you hear quality of work life?
And definitely would want to have a job that has good benefits, and your sanitation isn't awful. I mean, living in a dorm, you get pretty used to it, but I would say, benefits would be a bigger of those two for me.
Any kind of benefits that really pop out to you that are important?
I would definitely say healthcare, because it's so expensive. I think that's important for me anyways.
For our next question, how can a manager both achieve your quality of work life without infringing on another employee's quality of work life?
I would say that the manager would have to try his best to individualize how he works with everybody and trying to work as a team together. So try and get the best out of every individual, as well as making sure that they can all come together and work together.
I agree. I think it would have to you have to go to each person and see what their ideal quality of work life is like.
I mean, he's going to have to do it by asking them individually. I mean, if he doesn't ask, he's never going to know.
Okay.
Yeah, when he first gets there, he just comes in and gets to really know the employees that he has individually and what makes them work well with others.
Our next question is, out of the 4 moral points of reasoning, moral rights, individualism, justice, and utilitarian, which one do you think is most effective in the labor force in America? If you guys need time to think about this one, that's okay. Just want to pause it for a second.
Alright.
So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think utilitarian, because it's just the greatest good for the greatest amount of people, works best for the United States. But I think to be successful, you have to use all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with it. I mean, I would say they're all pretty important, but I would say if I put it in least, I would say that individualism for me would be one of the least ones, because I would want to come together as a team to make sure everything was running as efficiently as possible and not try and be that individual that's out doing his own thing.
Would you say that if a manager was acting like an individual and not as a team player, is he not as a quality manager as another?
Not necessarily. I mean, if he's good at what he does and he can do it better by himself instead of working with others and they still get the same results, then I would say let him do it his way as long as it's working. But for me, individualism.
I feel like I'd make the manager a true manager instead of more of a leader, since he's not I'm helping the people at a personal level.
Do you have a favorite theory out of Fayol's, Mintzberg's, Cotter's, Potts, and why? And I can show you guys the each of the theories and let you look over them again. So, which theory is your guys' favorite?
Personally, I prefer that Mintzberg. I just feel like it really fits well. You got the interpersonal, informational, and decision roles. I really feel like it helps the manager come together with his employees.
I think my favorite would be Katz's theory because it focuses on the different management skills and how you like use them all to be a good manager.
I would also be with the Mintzberg theory, just because you get a good mix of how it relates with the customers and employees as well as being just a manager.
Now, do you guys have anything, like any reason to not like the other theories, or just really strong opinions about these theories that you talked about?
I would say the 501 was a good starting point, but it really leaves out how it should, or how he should interact with his employees. It kind of just puts the manager at the top, and everything else just has to happen a certain way. He doesn't really interact with them, or if they're having a bad day or something.
Okay. I'd have to agree. I think it's just too basic.
Our next question for you guys. If you were to order these 3 words from most important to least important for a business, how would you arrange them? And the words are profit, people, planet.
I think for me personally, I would just keep it in that order, because you know that the company as a whole can't help the people if they don't have any money. They can't help the planet or give back to the planet if they don't have the profits and the people to give back to it. So I think it would have to start with the money.
Okay.
I'd agree with that too, because if you don't have any profit, then you're going to hurt the people and the environment. So.
I mean, yeah, they all build on each other, but they're all very important. You can't just leave one out, in my opinion. But I agree with that order.
Okay. Next question. Do you think it is best for America to reshore jobs, meaning bring them back into America, or do you think global sourcing is more effective to keep costs low for consumers? Another thing for you to consider is, with more jobs in America, would a slight rise in prices be balanced out by the reshoring? You want to pause it? Let me think about this one.
I would say that reshoring jobs to America can only be a good thing. I mean, some of the jobs should probably stay where they are because they're cheaper and Americans don't want to do them. So, I mean, other than that, since they would bring the jobs back, the cost of things would go up because they would try to make more profit or keep the profits the same in the company. And then, but since the people would have more money, they would be able to spend that money.
I mean, he pretty much hit most of the points, but it would just really help the economy and bring more jobs back, even though cost of living would go up a little bit.
Do you guys think that this would anger foreign countries because we're no longer outsourcing as much to them?
It absolutely would.
Taking away jobs from them, yeah. Okay. Do you think cutting people's hours would improve productivity for the time they're there while creating new jobs?
I think some people are like motivated like to work, like to make more money obviously, so I think it just depends on the person. Like if you're gonna cut the hours but still get paid the same as working like the hours that you were before, then it would be beneficial, I think, but if not, then I don't think that would help.
I think from a company standpoint, they would cut the hours and then they would cut the pay also, because they would think they're getting less from the workers because they're not putting in that 8-hour day. And I also think they would try and spread it out over other people with the same, and they would create a lot of the same jobs to fill the other 4 hours or however many hours, and you might end up with redundancy in the company.
I almost feel like if you did that, you'd end up paying people per task, not like per hour.
Mhm.
So like say you give someone a job, pay them so much, they complete it. And I have no idea how that would work out.
So like, the more productive you are, the
More you get paid.
more you get paid. Okay. Next question for you guys. How do you remain ethical in a business when there are varying values between your employees?
I would just say it has to start at the top. Like the CEO or whoever's in charge of the company would have to be very strong on his ethics and make sure that the company is going to do it the right way and that any slip-ups they're going to fix. So if there's an accounting error or something, they get it fixed and they get everything shown the right way.
I also think to like, if you run into problems with people's like differences, just to make sure it's like an open environment where the workers can go to the management and like express any concerns that they have.
Building on to that question, is there a way a manager can implement ethics into his employees? A good way for him to help his employees to try to make ethical decisions as they go throughout their workday?
You just have to try and lead by example. Just show them like his way of doing things and his ethical background behind doing things, and then go from there. And that would have to start at the top again and probably trickle down to him.
Maybe if someone screws up, he sits down and talks to them personally. Tell them how it needs to be done.
Alright. For our next question, do you think it's ethical to ask people to leave their personal views at home to avoid controversies amongst your employees?
I think so, yeah. I know that if I was in a work environment where everybody was so personal with me that they were trying to argue that stuff, that would take away from my productivity at work, and I would feel uncomfortable, as opposed to if I left like politics or some things like that at home, then I'd feel more comfortable not talking about it.
I agree. I don't think you should be getting paid to talk about your outside life at work. I mean, every once in a while is okay, but if it's just constant, like someone needs to step up and do something.
Yeah, there's probably a good balance, because if you don't get to talk about anything at all, then
Yeah.
I mean, you always have your friendly employees that you
Mhm.
just like having conversations with.
yeah.
I mean, like talking about your family, your kids,
yeah.
that's fine. Like, but some things you just gotta know probably are not the best topics at the workplace.
Controversial beliefs and opinions should just mainly pretty much stay out of the workplace.
I feel like that's a good way to make enemies instead of friends at the workplace.
Okay.
Next thing you know, you got everybody against you.
And next question. Elie Wiesel once said, "There may be times when we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time when we fail to protest." How does this relate to ethics in the business environment?
I think it relates because no matter like what your job is, you should always try to be making the right ethical decision, whether you're the manager or the employee. Like, always be doing what's right.
I would say if you know something's going wrong, then you should probably say something, because like we saw in 2008, a bunch of the banks knew they were doing the wrong thing, and they ended up betting against it, so they would make more money.
I agree. No one likes the whistleblower, but sometimes you just gotta do what's right, even if it's not the best for the company.
So if you were an employee in a situation where you found out that you were doing some unethical work, you were immoral about it, and you believe that your upper managers that you want to talk to were enforcing kind of this unethical behavior, who would you go to then if you can't go to those managers right there?
I'd probably talk to fellow employees around like the same level as myself, and then get their opinion, maybe work our way up, and then hopefully eventually talk to some higher up managers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You got to start with people around you, and if they're just not going to do anything, I think you should go up and talk to them and ask them why they're doing that. And if it's against your ethics and you don't really feel like you should be doing that, then probably remove yourself from the situation.
Alright,
So,
we're good.
alright, so I'm gonna come up with a situation, and I want you guys to use the 5-step problem-solving process to kind of go over the situation and get it from right or from wrong to right. So let's say you guys are managers at a grocery store, and you see an employee stealing candy bars every now and then. What would you do for each step of the process?
Well, first you're gonna identify and define the problem.
So somebody's stealing candy bars.
Yeah.
All right.
For the second part, you would have to evaluate like what you want to do to that employee. If you want to confront him while he's doing it, or if you just want to pull him aside.
There's also like passive aggressive things you could probably do, like write him an email, you
Yeah.
know, being like, hey, like stop doing that, or
And then next you got to decide on a decision. And I mean, if it was me personally, I'd probably, like if I saw it, I would call him aside, and then I'd be like, rumor is someone saw you stealing a candy bar, and then see if they come clean on it, and if not, take action from there.
Would you guys do it differently?
I would start there. I would call him aside and say, this has been happening, and then watch him after that. If he does it again and I see it, then I'd confront him in front of other people so that other people would be aware of the situation.
Okay.
yeah, it probably depends on like the severity of the problem.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, one candy bar you can just like set aside and like one of them just like tell them not to do it anymore.
Alright. Next step in the process, what would you do there?
Implementing the decision, I would just go about what we just talked
Yeah,
about.
which we already kind of did.
Kind of
Before,
yeah.
pretty similar.
Yeah.
And then for the last one, just evaluate, is he still stealing?
Mm-hmm.
Is other people stealing?
Mm-hmm.
Was he the only one? And if they know, then that I see it,
Mm-hmm.
might not happen again.
So if the problem keeps continuing, would the process kind of restart
Yeah,
over
pretty
again?
much. Like step 2.
Yeah. So let's say he does continue to steal. What would your next step be?
I would confront him in front of others. That would be my second
Okay.
go about. And then if he continues to steal from there, I'd say firing.
You're out of here. All right.
I mean, if he's stealing candy, I mean, it's something little, but it's just a trust issue.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have someone like that working for you, I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah, candy could lead into, if he thinks he's getting away with stealing candy, he might try and steal
Eventually.
other things, expensive things.
All right. Well, thank you for that. All right, so I invited my partner Alex Bars here to ask you guys some more questions.
Okay, so one thing in business, there's two different types of creativity, big C and little c. Big C is big people making big changes, and little c is little people making little changes, small changes. So which one do you think is more important in developing a business? I would say like an example would be like if you're building tractors, well maybe an employee decides to use a different tool to apply a part and it seems to work better. Well then maybe the manager would have everyone start using that tool to make it more efficient. So I guess which one do you guys think is more important?
Well, I would say the big C obviously impacts the company more so, but not everyone can implement the big C changes because of their role in the company. So I would say they're both equally important.
I would say that little C's are probably more important because you gotta have those little stepping stones along the way to get to one big thing. So they may take more time, but I would say that those are the foundation for the big change every time.
Yeah, and sometimes like the small ones will lead to the bigger ones anyway. So, if, like you said, if the little C was like a different tool, then if they brought it up to like the upper management, then they could implement it, and then it would more just be like they found the big C that could be result in a lot more production.
Okay, and then this is kind of getting more back into the ethical things, or I mean, just decision making as a whole as a manager. How does a manager not let their emotions towards like an individual get involved in their decision making? So maybe this will benefit one person and not benefit someone else, or vice versa. How do they? Or this person's bringing a new idea, so then they have favoritism towards that person, so they're gonna think that idea is better, but maybe this other person actually has the better idea. And how do you think like that can affect a business and the way people think, I guess, as managers?
I would say that you gotta keep things professional as you can. Keep your friend relationships and your work relationships different. They may commingle a little bit, but when it comes to making a decision, you gotta keep the company's best interests in mind. So you gotta go entirely into your work relationship and know that their idea, if the two ideas are similar, you can't just pick somebody just because you like them more than them.
I feel like if you struggle with that, with favorism, you can always ask someone who's neutral in the situation.
That's a good point. And then kind of the last thing we have for you guys, and this is kind of still on the emotional side of things. In chapter 3, we talked about the idea of an escalating commitment, where you keep putting more money towards something because, it's going to work out if I do this. How do you maybe help people throughout your business who want funding and stuff to understand, like, sometimes you got to cut it off, sometimes, you're going to fail and you just have to cut your losses? How do you portray that someone who's looking to make changes?
I think you'd have to make a list of the benefits and the costs of it, and then just talk that through with them, and then maybe they understand it better. Or tell them it's the importance of it isn't as great right now, but maybe it will be later on.
I think you really just got to be honest with them. If something's not working, you just got to show them the profits that whatever they're doing is producing versus something else in the company that might be really succeeding, and then cut them off if you have to.
Yeah, I guess a real world example would be like Tesla. They keep talking about how they're going to make all these great cars and how they are going to change the car making way. They just keep throwing money into these plants that they're going to build, but they keep falling short of production. And so people are starting to get more and more worried about it, if they're ever going to get out and make some money, or if it's just going to be one big, massive bust.
That's all the time we have, so thank you.
Thank you very much.